Hello. Hello and good morning to you all. I want to welcome you to this event. And I'll be your MC. My name is Hezbon Nyakundi. Thank you and welcome.
Right. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I'm trying to sign because we've been learning some sign language under the KBA program. So my name is Hezbon Nyakundi, and I'm really happy to be your MC today. So I would like to start by taking you through a brief highlight of the program. Today, we are really happy and honored to have a galaxy of guests in our program. We are really glad to have Dr. Patrick Njoroge, the Central Bank of Kenya Governor, who is our chief guest. Thank you so much, Governor, for joining us. We also have several bank CEOs present here, as well as representatives from various banks in the industry. We also acknowledge Dr. Habil Olaka, the CEO for KBA. He's also on the call. And also, of course, Mr. Hudson Asiema. Mr. Asiema is the founder of Deaf eLimu Plus. We'll learn more about him and the work he does later in the program. Then, of course, we have Carol Karaoke, who is the CEO for KEPSA. And then we also have Catherine Nasserian, who is the project manager at FKE. We will have Solomon Buhala representing Mr. Samson Waweru from the Kenya Society for the Blind in the program. Then, of course, I'd like to recognize Ms. Irene Barikirika, who is the founder and executive director of Enable. And we also honored to have Mr. Bruce Kahan dialing in from very far away, tell us about where he is later in the program. He is the co-founder of the Sustainable Banking Initiative of the Stanford University. I'd also like to recognize Mr. Henry Kilonzo, who is the senior manager for foundations at Safaricom. He'll also be joining us later in the program when we'll be having the panel discussion. So our program today is really structured in two parts. The first part, we will have Dr. Habil, we'll have opening remarks, where we'll have Dr. Habil Olaka making his opening remarks. Then he will hand over to Hudson Asiema, who will make his remarks, and then give us a taste of what the app we are launching today looks like. Then after that, we'll have remarks from KEPSA CEO, Ms. Carol Karaoke. Then after that, we'll have remarks by Central Bank of Kenya Governor, Dr. Patrick Njoroge. Then after that, we'll have Public Affairs Director for KBA, Ms. Nuru Mogambi, moderating a panel discussion that will feature Ms. Catherine Nasserian. We'll have Solomon Buhala representing Kenya Society for the Blind. We'll have Tamara Cook, CEO of FSD Kenya. Irene Barikirika will also be in that panel. Bruce Kahan, as well as Henry Kilonzo. So I'd like to move to the next part of the brief for this session. Rosalie, you can move to the next slide, please. So at this point, I would like, before I invite Dr. Habil Olaka to make his remarks, I would like to note that we can engage. This program is being streamed online on Facebook, and we would like to keep the conversation going. So we can use the hashtag A11Y Finance and IDPD, which is actually, tomorrow is International Day for Persons with Disability. So I think it's good for us to start the conversation now. So without any further ado, it is now my humble pleasure to welcome Dr. Habil Olaka, who is the CEO for the Kenya Bank Association, to make his remarks and start us off in this program. Thank you very much. Welcome, Dr. Olaka.
Yeah, thank you, Hezbon. Let me start by first acknowledging the presence of our chief guest, the Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya, Dr. Patrick Njoroge. Let me also recognize the KBA member bank CEOs and the industry representatives that are also on this call. Let me also recognize the presence of the CEO of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, Ms. Carol Kariuki. We also have the founder of the Deaf eLimu Plus, Mr. Hudson Asiema. I'll also recognize the CEO of the FSD Kenya, Tamara Cook. And then I'll also recognize the Education and Rehab Manager for the Kenya Society for the Blind, Mr. Solomon Bohala. And then we have got the founder and executive director of Enable, Ms. Irene Bare Kirika. And then I'd like to recognize the co-founder of the Stanford University Sustainable Banking Initiative, Professor Bruce Kahan, and the senior manager for Safaricom Foundation, Mr. Henry Kilonzo, and the project manager for the Federation of Kenya Employers, Ms. Catherine Nasserian. We also recognize members of the media, all the distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. But before I start, maybe let me start by saying a few words in the Kenya Sign Language.
Hello, and good morning to you all. It is my pleasure to be hosting this program today.
Indeed, I'm pleased to welcome you all to this ceremony being held to mark the official unveiling of the Deaf eLimu banking website and mobile application. I'm happy to see many familiar faces and names from across sectors of the economy on the call today. Indeed, your participation here today is an inspiring indication of cross-sector commitments towards facilitating inclusivity, particularly for people with disabilities. On behalf of the banking industry, I would like to extend our sincere appreciation to you all, and particularly to the Central Bank Governor, Dr. Patrick Njoroge, who has made time from his very busy schedule to honor our invitation. We also acknowledge with gratitude every person and organization represented here today. Deaf eLimu Banking, which we are launching today, is a platform designed to facilitate training of bank staff on bank environment vocabulary in the Kenya Sign Language, also known as KSL. The innovation has been developed by Deaf eLimu Plus in collaboration with the Kenya Bankers Association and with funding support from the FSD Kenya, in an effort that has taken several months to come to fruition today. I would like to note that this product traces its origins from the KBA Digital Accessibility for People with Disabilities Project report and case study. This report and case study was released by the Governor of Central Bank, Dr. Njoroge, in November last year. This solution is a culmination of the many recommendations from the publication, which highlights the need to facilitate a better banking experience for the deaf community and people with disabilities in general. In its findings, the report indicates that deaf customers are some of the most dissatisfied of all bank clients on account of communication challenges. To address this challenge, the report recommends industry-wide measures towards ensuring bank branches have staff who communicate in Kenya Sign Language. Also that branch staff are trained in disability etiquette. The Deaf eLimu Banking app, therefore, seeks to aid the achievement of that ambition. We have no doubt that the tool will be an invaluable resource in banks' KSL training efforts, as well as in the sensitization of bank staff on the disability culture. In addition, the report recommends that all banks set roadmaps to guide their individual journey. I'm happy to report today that as of July this year, 31 banks have articulated their initial plans, setting the stage for a phased-out implementation of the accessibility initiatives. The blueprints have been consolidated into a harmonized industry roadmap, which we hope will see all banks achieve full accessibility by the year 2024 or sooner. On this feat, I would like to recommend the banking industry for taking up the clamor for accessibility with encouraging enthusiasm. Over the past year, many bank staff have shown a growing level of interest in the Kenya Sign Language. I have derived satisfaction seeing several banks, including KCB, DTB, and ABSA, taking the hashtag sign language challenge on social media. At the same time, banks, including the Kingdom Bank, have already commenced their inclusivity training. In this regard, I would like to make special mention of 3 bank staff who continue to support the industry's KSL training initiatives. Mr. Hilary Migoya of Absa Bank, Kenya, and Ms. Valentine Kayumbi of KCB Bank, and Ms. Rida Kitsuru of the National Bank of Kenya. These are among the various bank employees who are certified Kenya Sign Language interpreters and will continue to be invaluable resources in our KSL training program. I firmly believe that deaf eLimu banking will be a welcome addition to not only the training and capacity building needs of banks, but also in promoting a culture of inclusion in the banking industry and even beyond. To further aid banks, KBA has developed a curriculum of PWD etiquette and KSL training. The industry has also been asked to commemorate the International Day of Persons with a Disability, which will be marked incidentally tomorrow. In addition, the industry has begun the process of reframing perceptions of what a banker looks like. We recognize the need to promote diversity and inclusion, and this extends to hastening efforts to recruit employees and staff with disabilities and identify how best to support members of our workforce who have temporary or permanent disabilities. At this point, I would like to thank FSD Kenya, led by Mr. Mara Cook, for supporting this initiative. FSD Kenya co-funded the development of the Deaf eLimu banking platform and made a great contribution towards the KBA digital accessibility for PWD projects. I would also like to appreciate Irene Mbari Kirika and the Enable team for helping us implement the digital accessibility project, which helped shape the industry's roadmap. In a special way, I would like to recognize Mr. Hudson Asiema, who is the technical brain behind Deaf eLimu banking. Mr. Asiema, who is deaf and lost his ability to speak at the age of 5, is a software engineer and the founder of Deaf eLimu Plus. KBA modeled the industry platform after his work, and we look forward to building on the vocabulary and digital experience for bank employees who wish to learn more about the disability inclusion. I would also like to recognize the KBA Secretariat staff who have shown interest in KSL, including the KBA directors, Nuru Mugambi and Raymond Molenje, our MC for today and Senior Communications Officer, Hesbon Nyakundi, and our accountant, Arnold Wangila. I also have had the opportunity to try to learn a few words in KSL, as you must have seen at the beginning of this discussion. And I think I'll also be joining my colleagues in the sign language challenge. I would like to conclude my remarks by reiterating the banking industry's commitment to continue initiating and supporting programs towards galvanizing efficient strategies that support people with disabilities and promote inclusion. Finally, I wish you all an engaging International Day of Persons with Disabilities tomorrow. Asanteni sana.
Thank you very much, Dr. Olaka. In sign language, we clap like this, so we can After every guest has spoken, we can just cheer them up like that. That's how we do it in Kenyan Sign Language. Thank you, Dr. Olaka, for those inspiring remarks. And now at this point, I would like to welcome the next guest on stage. This is Mr. Hudson Asiema to make his remarks, and then he will give us a taste of what the platform will look like. Welcome, Mr. Asiema.
Thank you. Hello and good morning to you all. It is a great pleasure for me to be here with you all guys for the launch of the Deaf eLimu banking app. My name is Hudson Asiema, and this is my sign name. And I am the founder of Deaf eLimu Plus. First, allow me to take this opportunity to thank Kenya Bankers Association, FSD Kenya, and the deaf community for making this happen. This important partnership truly highlighted the stakeholders' commitment in making sure that financial services are accessible for persons with disability. Because addressing these challenges that this important group of customers go through in the bank will not only upscale their uptake of financial services, but also enhance their participation in national development agenda by making sure that persons with disability fully participate in building of our economy. I'm really, truly looking forward to working with you all on this app and on future initiatives. The Deaf eLimu banking app aims at promoting and supporting the bank employees to learn basic Kenyan Sign Language so that to empower them to be in a position to communicate with their deaf clients. The app features 100 vocabularies derived from banking environment, and it has a video demonstrating how to sign them in Kenyan Sign Language. This application will improve the banking experience by facilitating communication, which has been the major point of dissatisfaction by the deaf customers within the banking setting. In the past, the deaf community has always been left out in terms of accessing general public information. This is because of language and communication barrier. But now that Kenyan Sign Language is recognized under the Constitution of Kenya, I do believe that it is very important that each and everyone learns at least basic essential Kenyan Sign Language. And I know through this app, it will also help us recognize and appreciate the difference between Kenyan Sign Language, grammar, and English grammar. Therefore, building one's confidence in wanting to learn and understand Kenyan Sign Language. This will provide more opportunity for inclusion of the deaf community. Growing up as a deaf person in Kenya, I got an opportunity to study abroad. And from that experience, I realized the challenges that the deaf community in Kenya experience in comparison to the developed countries. Because when it comes to technology and digital accessibility, we are a little bit left behind. After I graduated, I came back to Kenya and started a company, the Deaf eLimu Plus Limited. This company provides innovative educational product and tutorial services in sign language. Once again, allow me to request you guys to please download the app. Please support us by creating more awareness on the important features that the app has. Through this, let us appreciate diversity and integrate with the deaf community. Let me share my sincere gratitude and appreciation to Kenya Bankers Association for helping come up with the concept. I would also want to thank the deaf trainers who helped come up with the signs in the app. I'll also want to thank the bank personnel trained in Kenyan Sign Language who helped test the app to make sure that it meets the needs of their deaf customers. I want to thank you all also, and I know that you'll continue supporting the deaf eLimu banking app to make it become even a stronger pillar of deaf inclusion. This app is the first of its kind within the banking environment in Kenya. Thank you.
Let's cheer up Mr. Siema for those inspiring remarks. Thank you very much, Hudson, for those remarks. And at this point, with your permission, I will go on to share the video that highlights the aspects of the app and what it will offer for the deaf community.
Oh yes, I'm totally interested in learning sign language, but where can I learn it from?
Right, thank you very much for that demo. I realized that we had an audio issue, so I'll try to troubleshoot that and then replay the demonstration later in the program. So at this point, I would like to welcome the Kenya Private Sector Alliance CEO, Ms. Carol Kariuki, to make her remarks. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. I'm really excited. Let me start by recognizing just maybe 2 or 3 people: Dr. Patrick Njoroge, the governor of CBK, Dr. Habil Olaka, the Chief Executive Officer of KBA, Hudson, and listening to you, I'm very encouraged, founder and CEO of the Deaf eLimu Plus, Ms. Tamara Cook, the CEO of FSD. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning again. And I'm really pleased to join you this morning for the launch and the celebration of this innovative platform. I must say, I'm really encouraged just to see the banking environment facilitating this so that there's access to financial services. You know, it's so easy sometimes to forget how many other people who may be having other that are different from you and what they cannot access. And so when I saw this at first, I was surprised. I said, oh, I never even thought what this means. But I really wish to thank all the stakeholders who've been involved in making this possible, from the founder, Ms. Hudson Asiema, and hearing your story, very encouraging. And I hope many more can begin initiatives as they realize that there are communities that are left out just because the bigger community may not think about what their needs are. And I was just listening about that, and I thought, yeah, we work on the schools, we set up the schools for the deaf, we set up the schools for different people, but we don't think, what does that mean after that? What are some of the services they'll need? Where will they work? And so for me, this is really a challenge, and I want actually to challenge all the different sectors to take this up. I know there's a lot of work happening with others, but mine is a call to challenge all the sectors in KEPSA and the sectors of the economy to really take such a challenge and institute such applications and such alternatives for the people with disability. To Kenya Bankers Association and FCD, we appreciate your efforts to create an inclusive environment in the financial sector through your digital accessibilities for PWD's project. As we usher in the new digital era, such innovations are a very welcome move in building a truly inclusive society where no one is left behind, socially or economically, despite their health, gender, or physical condition. It should be an inspiration for all sectors to emulate and adopt, especially the training of their employees on the Kenyan Sign Language. And I was just seeing a few of that, and I said, hiya, I don't even have my own sign language of how I introduce myself when I meet a deaf person. And so it's a challenge, even at a personal level, to be able to ease interaction with the deaf customers and the deaf people in our lives. The media have made remarkable progress in training the deaf in their viewship, but more remains to be done, especially in sectors such as wholesale and retail trade, transport, and healthcare that interact a lot with PWDs. And again, as I said, to all sectors, for me, this is a wake-up call and a challenge that I'm giving. The 2019 census by Kenya National Bureau of Standards shows that 918,270 persons above 5 years in the country had a disability, out of which 135,361 had disability in hearing and 111,356 disability in communication. Even though the report shows over 80% of these are in rural areas, it's crucial to ensure that they are not left out in social and economic development activities on account of their disability. I would also urge the government to integrate basic sign language in training curriculum, along with disability awareness programs, to ease social interactions and enable acceptance of PWDs. If we all know the sign language, we can easily communicate, understand, and do business with a deaf person without the need of interpreters, or offer them employment on equal terms, thereby empowering them and reduce poverty and dependence. At KEPSA, we do have agenda and PWD sector board, and we are trying to mainstream as many initiatives in both the public and private sector, and especially access to opportunities such as AGPO, supplier diversity initiatives, access to affordable financing, prompt payments, among others. We've also supported initiatives such as the Innovative Pathways for Employment Inclusion project, launched in 2018 by a consortium of partners led by Leonard Chesire, towards addressing the barriers of employment for PWDs. So I'd really like to conclude by expressing our appreciation and support to you as you roll out the new application, whatever we can do to help this to move to many more people and to challenge many more sectors, please do not hesitate to contact us. And we're really, really happy to do this. And I really want to mention special thanks to Nuru Mugambi, who has really, really been at the forefront of this working in KBA. There's so much potential in use of technology to address the day-to-day challenges we face in business, and this is just one of them. Let's exploit as many, many opportunities that the digital world does offer us. So thank you, and to this morning and to everything that will be said, I really, really stand with you and count us as one of your partners and a stakeholder in this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karaoke. Let's celebrate her. Thank you very much. So I'd mentioned earlier that we had a small hitch with the audio. We apologize for that. So with your permission, I'm going to share the video now and then include the audio. Okay, just a second.
Hey, would you be interested in learning banking terms and phrases in Kenyan Sign Language?
Why?
Okay, let me ask you. When a deaf customer comes to your bank, they meet you. Then they want to access bank's services and products. How do you communicate with them?
Oh, yeah, you're right. I would want to learn Kenyan Sign Language, but where can I learn it from?
Yeah, chill. Let me show you. Check this out. Deaf eLimu Banking is a banking Kenyan Sign Language self-training tool. It has features such as the dictionary, where you can get bank-related terms, scroll for their meaning, or even get a description of how they're signed with a clear video illustration. The phrases feature provides you with an opportunity to learn the difference between Kenyan Sign Language grammar and English grammar through signed phrases. In it also is a community section that allows you to record and share bank-related Kenyan Sign Language videos for learning within the community. You can also go to Deaf eLimu Banking website, and here you'll get access to the same features as you do in the app.
Oh, wow, this is good. So I can learn the Kenyan Sign Language from the app or the website?
Yes, you can. Please download the app now. Thank you.
Let us celebrate Hudson for that great video. Actually, I wanted to mention that Hudson Asiema made that video himself. So creative. You see, it's a discussion with his colleague there, you've seen. And he has taken us through what the app offers. So I'd like to mention that the app is currently available on Android platform. So just go to the Android store and just search Deaf eLimu Banking. And we go to download the app and get started on the Kenyan Sign Language challenge that we are now coordinating as an industry. So at this point, I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Olaka back on stage to welcome our chief guest, Dr. Patrick Njoroge, to make his remarks and formally unveil the solution. Thank you very much and welcome, Dr. Olaka.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hesbon. As you have indicated, my role is fairly simple. Mine would be to have the pleasure of inviting our chief guest today, who is the Central Bank of Kenya Governor, Dr. Patrick Njoroge, to make his keynote remarks. Thank you very much, Governor. Karibu sana.
Bill Olaka, thank you very much. Tamara, CEOs of commercial banks, ladies and gentlemen, hello and good morning. I hope that worked. Good morning. I'm pleased to be part of the launch of the Deaf eLimu banking app. My gratitude goes to Kenya Bankers Association for putting together this launch and for inviting me to speak. I also extend my appreciation to the Financial Sector Deepening, FSD Kenya, and Deaf eLimu Plus Limited for their partnership with KBA on this project. The choice of date for this launch is apt, being a day before the world commemorates the International Day of Persons with Disability. And I really want to single out a few people that have been carrying out or really doing the heavy lifting in terms of making this possible. Of course, I mentioned Tamara, I mentioned FSD, but as part of that, we have Nuru Mugambi, who has really been a sort of a prime mover in that space in KBA. We obviously have talked about Hudson. Hudson, amazing what you've done. And I think I would want to have half your spirit. If I get a full measure of your spirit, that's good. But if I get half, I'm doing very well. And of course, others, Catherine, Nasiran, Irene, Barry, Kirika, Henry Kilonzo, of course, our partners in many ways. And of course, for this presentation, we also welcome Bruce Curran from Stanford University, but these are principal people that have been with us. I failed to mention Caro Karaoke at the beginning, and I'm sorry that that was an omission on my part. So Caro, we are grateful to you and also what you've done with the rest of the private sector representatives. I note with appreciation that my sentiments 1 year ago during the launch of the Persons with Disability Digital Access report were duly considered and executed. I challenge the participants to provide tailor-made financial products that meet the needs of persons with disabilities. I'm informed that 31 commercial banks have submitted their roadmaps on how they intend to implement the recommendations made in the report. It's therefore exciting to be here today to launch an app that is going to revolutionize banking for the hearing impaired. The World Health Organization estimates that 5% of the world's population, that is some 430 million people, are living with disabling hearing loss. This number is envisaged to grow to over 700 million by 2050. Of this population, about 80% are people living in developing countries. In Kenya, of the 900,000 persons with disability, 150,000 are living with hearing loss. This is a significant population who are likely to be sidelined due to the non-exclusivity of our systems. In Kenya, we pride ourselves in achieving 82.9% financial inclusion. However, only 0.5% of persons with disabilities are part of these statistics. I think that is worth just absorbing. it is a significant sort of inequity that, that is revealed in those statistics. So this brings me to the barriers locking out people living with disabilities from the financial system. It is interesting to note that these barriers are rudimentary. They include negative attitude, misunderstandings by both financial institutions as well as their clients living with disabilities, unfavorable infrastructure such as lack of ramps and having to endure long queues. It's therefore within our reach to break these barriers and bring all persons with disabilities to the formal financial system. Allow me now to focus on the reasons why it is paramount for the banking sector to deal with these constraints and pave way for persons with disabilities to access financial services. First, it's our responsibility to ensure that we continually put people's needs at the core of banking business. This is one of the commitments that financial institutions made through the adoption of the Kenya Banking Sector Charter, issued in 2019. Customer centricity, which is the first pillar of the charter, not by accident, but by design, should be at the heart of product development. Over the last few years, financial institutions are increasingly tailoring their products and services to the needs of their customers. This was especially the case during the period that we have been dealing with the coronavirus pandemic. However, much more needs to be done, particularly in segmenting the markets deeper to understand the needs of persons with disabilities. I'm glad that this is already happening with the development of the Deaf eLimu banking app. Second, we are on the road towards ensuring shared prosperity for all by 2030, ingrained in the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. This will only be achieved through building sustainable and inclusive communities that foster inclusion and equitable opportunities for all. It is now widely appreciated that businesses can only be as successful as the societies they operate in and draw their existence from. Environmental, social, and governance, ESG considerations, are now paramount in any organization's strategy and operations. In this regard, ensuring that persons living with disabilities have the same opportunities to access financial services is an obligation that we have to step up to. In this regard, I have a story that I have learned a lot from. One of our staff members in their previous employment had a group of 30 people that were reporting to him. And they had two persons that were deaf, hearing this, well, with disabilities in their hearing. And it was obviously a key concern bringing that person in, or those two people into the team. And what they did was to actually learn sign language. The entire team, all 30 of them, they all learned to bring these two people into their team to make them better members, etc. And the surprising thing is how much they got from the this project of just learning together the sign language. Of course, productivity and all those other things were increased, but that was not the important thing. The most important thing is that they now had two full members that would otherwise have been sidelined. And these members brought in, these staff members, they brought in their expertise, knowledge, and indeed their comparative advantage in the things they do. And that to me is somewhat of a microcosm of what can happen in the entire industry and indeed the entire country. And the third point I wanted to mention is that the Kenyan banking sector is known for its leading role in an array of areas, ranging from innovation to supporting broader societal good, including in education, health, and the environment. This has spilled over to the East African region and beyond, where Kenyan banks are expanding their footprint. In the same breath, the banking sector should also lead in advancing inclusion of persons with disabilities. Let me take this opportunity to implore upon the other, to urge other players in Kenya, as well as in the region, to follow this path. This will move us a step closer towards achieving shared prosperity for all. The Central Bank of Kenya is also walking the talk. We are in various initiatives in support of persons with disabilities. More specifically, Central Bank of Kenya supports St. Kizito Latin School for the Deaf. And I will pause here for a brief video clip on this initiative. I hope it really will work and won't have glitches and hitches and other things like that everyone was talking to us about.
St. Kizito's Latin School for the Deaf has been a good school with good teachers and hard working. About Central Bank.
It's now 50 years since the Central Bank started. Together we all celebrate 50 years of success.
The Central Bank were impressed and they were asked to assist us.
The staff were very excited. As a matter of fact, they invited them over to the Central Bank. But the staff then also found out that the situation in their school, there were certain things that needed serious renovations. The staff, out of their own resources, decided to get into a fundraising campaign where they would raise something like 20 million Kenyan.
And that's why we are here, to raise funds for them.
The Central Bank did not end there. They have come and they are now doing good work in the classrooms, in the dining hall, even the teachers' quarters.
The time I came in, it was not the same as it is now. There are so beautiful colors around the environment, our compound.
If we look around our school, it's so beautiful. There are so many drawings around. And our children, because they are sight readers, so they love things that they can see with their own eyes. And therefore, they are really impressed by the drawings. And so many of them actually have resorted to drawing because of what they see around here. Initially, they would be idle for most of the times. But since these play materials were installed, I'm telling you, lower class, they are ever there. They really enjoy, sliding, swinging, and merry-go-round.
So the school looks so beautiful. The dorms around where we eat, kila mahali, very smart. Yeah, even the teaching itself is very smart. I find all they enjoy watching the pictures around. We have the bicycles drawn on the walls. At the same time, we have the pictures drawn everywhere. We thank you, we thank God for the provision through Central Bank of Kenya, who helped them to help us in different ways.
Thank you very much, technical people. And yes, it's an amazing video. And I think I've learned a lot from the children of that school. For instance, I've learned that this is my name in sign language. And I don't remember how they came up with it, but that is me. And I've also learned other things. And actually, one of the things I challenged them when they visited us is that I am governor, the 9th governor of the Central Bank of Kenya. I challenged them that the 12th governor of the Central Bank of Kenya would be one of them. So, and they actually took up that challenge. So let's see, they are coming. The school came to the limelight, as they said in the video, when they won one of CBK's sponsored categories during the 2019 Kenya Music Festival. As indicated in the clip, we have completed a number of infrastructure developments at the school. This includes construction of a dormitory, renovation works for their classes, as well as provision of water storage tanks. And I really want to thank the various commercial banks that also contributed to this effort back in 2016, 2017. As I draw to a close, we are collectively taking the right steps. However, this is just a starting point. Let us endeavor to incorporate the needs of all categories of persons with disabilities in the banking sector. Indeed, a society is at its best when it leaves no one behind. I know there are 100 phrases in this app today. And for most spoken languages, the target for a beginner is 250 to 500 words. With 1,000 to 3,000 words, you can carry on a regular conversation. Now, I don't know how that translates to sign language, phrases, but particularly phrases for banking. But my challenge to you is to continue working steadfastly so as to improve the scope of this app, to make it more useful for all. It's now my distinct pleasure to declare the Deaf eLimu banking application officially launched. Thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you very much, Dr. Njoroge. Let's celebrate Dr. Njoroge, please. Thank you very much for those remarks. I think what I picked from there is the encouraging call for the industry to put people with disabilities at the core of the banking business, and also the challenge for us to increase the scope of the app, to add more vocabulary and to make it more useful for all. So we are really grateful for your coming, Dr. Njoroge, and we appreciate your presence here today to launch the app. So at this point, I would like to welcome Ms. Nuru Mugambi to take us to the next part of the program, and she'll be moderating a panel discussion. And I now welcome her to take us through the guests and facilitate the discussion. Welcome, Nuru.
Hello, I'm called Nuru. I'm the session moderator. I'm happy to be here in this discussion, and I look forward to learning from the presenters. Let's start. I'll now ask all the presenters, the panelists, to turn on their cameras and microphones. We have Tamara Cook. She's the Chief Executive Officer of FSD Kenya. Welcome, Tamara. We have Samson Waweru, Mr. Bohala, who is representing Kenya Society of the Blind. We have Catherine Naserian. She's the project manager at FKE. We have Irene Barry Kirika. She's executive director and founder of Enable. And Enable has been really leading on this space on disability inclusion for many years. So we celebrate the team and Irene for what she started. We have Henry Kilonzo from Safaricom Foundation. He's a senior manager there. And we have Mr. Bruce Cahan, all the way from Palo Alto, Stanford, founder of the Sustainable Banking Initiative. Welcome all. So allow me to start with Tamara Cook, and FSD Kenya, of course, we've recognized FSD throughout the program for really supporting KBA on this journey. Tamara, can you cover very high level why this initiative and this particularly Deaf eLimu banking, why it's important, and maybe give us a view from Kenya's financial inclusion journey and maybe what these types of initiatives can do to help build resilience, particularly for clients with disabilities. Welcome, Tamara.
Thank you, Nuru. You know, if I think about Kenya's financial inclusion journey, it started a long time ago. But if we were to go back to when FSD Kenya began and when we started working with the Central Bank of Kenya and the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics on the launch of FinAccess, we heard earlier from the governor what a small percentage of our current inclusion is with people with disabilities. I think in 2006, that number would have been much, much, much smaller. And when we think about inclusive finance, you know, FSD Kenya is all about building an inclusive financial sector that works for the real economy, that works for everyone. And so it's really important to understand, what does inclusive mean? Well, in 2006, inclusive meant rural. It meant women, it meant remote areas, it meant micro, small, medium enterprises, it meant low-income households. Since 2006, we have come a very long way on many of those categories. The gender gap continues to decrease. The gap between urban and rural financial inclusion continues to decrease. And you know, things like, and what have been the things that have done that? Things like agent banking, for example, which has taken the bank to the people. Things like mobile phones. Obviously, mobile money has been a big part of that, but also just people being able to access a full range of financial services on their phone. And now bankers can access Kenyan Sign Language on their devices. And so I think this is a really important step. So when FSD Kenya learned that the Kenya Bankers Association, and more importantly, the Kenyan banks, had that energy that Habil was talking about to really go for this customer base that was being, I liked the word that was used earlier, they were dissatisfied. It's almost a polite way of saying it. And so this is a way to really address that dissatisfaction so that people really feel that they're getting the valuable financial solutions they need. You know, when we launched the report a year ago, not just on deaf people, but on all people with disabilities, one of the things I said then that I still think is really powerful now, and I'll try to use a little bit of sign language, is that it wasn't about people with disabilities, it was about bank customers with disabilities. So that's already a testament, the fact that bankers were already serving people with disabilities. So this is about serving those existing customers better. But I think more importantly, it's about bringing new people into the banking sector because they now feel welcome, they feel satisfied with what's being offered, and they can have their questions answered in ways that feel comfortable and good. I think that's probably all I'll say, except that I've already started playing with the app and I look forward to learning these 100 words myself. And I also look forward to having a sign language name, but until then, I will continue to finger spell Tamara. Thank you.
You have very flexible fingers, so well done. Thank you so much, Tamara. And indeed, it really is the beginning of a journey. Of course, the governor has challenged us to add to the vocabulary. Within the app, there's a community section. So we really invite all Kenyans who are willing to record different vocabulary words and phrases. You submit it to the community. Hudson is our moderator for that community. He'll give us a seal of approval and post the video. So over time, we definitely will be building on the vocabulary, and of course, with partners like Enable, Kenya Society of the Blind, Mr. Bohala and the team, we'll be able to build a rich database. So thank you so much, Tamara, for the support as always from FSD. Allow us to switch to Mr. Buhala. We've had some really good thoughts around the challenge the governor and Dr. Olaka has shared with us in terms of building inclusivity. Maybe you can highlight for us just generally the consumer experience for our brothers and sisters who cannot see in terms of accessing services, not only banking, but also retail services such as supermarkets, telecommunication services. Maybe can you share with us how we can work together to support the blind community? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Noor, and everybody else. I want to appreciate being part of this conversation today, and I want to, on behalf of my executive director who is in Switzerland right away, I want to say that I'll share some of the key customer experiences from persons with vision impairment. Of course, after having been in the sector with persons with vision impairment for the last 3 decades, I think there's a lot that we have to share to, in fact, strengthen this aspect of inclusivity and, of course, accessibility. Those are 2 issues that I'm looking at. When you look at, for example, accessing banks, persons with vision impairment, they're having some challenges like, you see, they need to double tap some icons. And sometimes when they double tap the icons, what comes out, sometimes it comes out as the opposite of what they were expecting. Remember, they wanted to tap something and then they double tap because of the icons are put very close. So they tap and then the preference that comes out is a different result than what they expected. It is an issue that they are even saying that it is a very big challenge, and they would wish to continue being part of the economy and playing part, and of course using the banks. But this is a very big hindrance. Of course, they're also saying that when it comes to ATM, it's a big challenge because they want to be more independent. So they want to have that voice feedback within the ATMs, so that they can be at least more independent. You see, being a person with vision impairment does not mean that you always have to depend on others. You have to live in a world that you can also carry yourself through as a person that God created to be independent. So they are also saying that it's good also to look at training the staff to be more friendly and to know how to address and of course handle customers with the vision impairment, because we are going to have more, because there are many causes of vision impairment as we are speaking, and it's good to also realize that handling a person with vision impairment is very key and makes him also to feel he's part and parcel of the community. I want to say that it's good to know that sometimes people with vision impairment have guides who guide them. When you are talking to somebody, like my ED is a person with vision impairment, he has his guide. Now, when you are talking to him, address him. Don't address the guide. You see, there's that tendency of people addressing the guide, that please tell him. You see, he's just, he has loss of sight, but he wants you to address him. So there's a tendency of people addressing the guide. This is some of the challenges. And of course, people with vision impairment are saying now, they need to have an information pack which allows them to access most of the services. They want to see more of the soft, the emails, or even on the ATMs, there should be some braille, textures, so that they want to have more WhatsApp communication, and they want to have more audio feedback, so that they can at least be part and parcel. Of course, in the matter of writing checks, they are saying that checks are normally denied due to thumbprint signatures. Most banks refuse that because they say now, because of the thumb, this check may not be acceptable. Now, the people with vision impairment are saying that it's good to enhance internet banking. You fix an app on the mobiles so that they can also access these services. They're also saying that you could be thinking of introducing more biometric instead of ink to avoid unnecessary soiling or being marked and becoming an easy prey. You know, when people are moving, they also look at people's fingers and they know people's vision impairment, they use ink in banks. Somebody can easily say that this one has been in the bank, so he's having money. So they become an easy prey. I want to say in supermarkets, it's good the supermarkets to have their customer care staff trained in mainstreaming disability so that people with vision impairment would wish to have that experience on the shelves to see what they want to pick and what they don't want to pick. Normally, they're sometimes told that just tell us what you want, we bring you. They are saying they want to have staff of the supermarkets lead them to the shelves so that they can have an experience of making a choice while next to the shelf. So they are saying at least it's good for the customer care. Supermarkets should have their people trained. And as the society, we are ready to work with we are working with at least a few of the supermarkets, and we are ready to give skills to the staff, very few skill, very just compacted skill to know how to handle a person with vision impairment. Now, they also, persons with vision impairment are saying that in matters to do with the telecommunication, instructions are given as if everybody is seeing. You know, when you're giving instructions, you give as if everybody is seeing. It's good to know that there are some people who are not seeing. So it's good to adjust, to adapt your instructions. They are saying that at least a smartphone may not be helpful unless text messages are followed with a voice call. You see, if you just text without a voice call, sometimes it becomes a very, a situation that people with vision impairment are not getting communication. Press transfer for instance, there is always a wrong perception. When a person with vision impairment is entering a hotel or a restaurant, the aspect in the mind of the staff is that this is a beggar who is coming to beg. So it is good to change, just like the governor has said, attitude. And this, we are saying that through the Kenya Bank Association, we can have people being trained. In fact, we can have more video clips going around so that people can also learn on their own how to handle persons with vision impairment, and also know not every customer coming in our hotel is a beggar. You see, that has really frustrated most of persons with vision impairment. And you see also when somebody is bringing a menu, he's not explaining the menu, he's just throwing the menu there. And he sees that person as a white cane. That is a sample that that person has loss of vision. So he is just throwing it there, not explaining, not asking that what would you want to have? And this is a menu, we have things. So they are saying that it's good for the food that's being served to be explained. Also, a waiter, when a waiter is bringing food, let the waiter bring the food before a person with vision impairment and explain, we have served you this and this, and we have on your right, there is the spoon, on your left, there is a fork, and there is, you see, explaining so that this person is part and parcel. People with vision impairment are saying that it is good to know that loss of sight does not mean that this person cannot be able to freely get integrated in the community, and he wants to be part and parcel. So he wants to be addressed. In fact, people with vision impairment would wish to be seen, first of all, as people, and later as those who have lost sight. So these are some of the experiences I'm happy to share. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. Buhala. And you're reminding us and reinforcing what Ms. Tamara Cook shared about the fact that we have a lot to do. We have a lot of work to do. And you've walked us through the need of really incorporating our clients, including clients who are not able to see, in the product design, and also in our infrastructure, this aspect of easily accessible ATMs. You even spoke about staff training aspect. And of course, you would know that KBA has developed a database of PWD etiquette trainers. and certified Kenyan Sign Language trainers. And that database has been shared with all the banks because we are very keen to make sure that the proper training happens, including issues around etiquette and culture. I remember when we had the forum earlier in the year with Bishop Kosgei, he shared with us his experience being in a wheelchair and not being able to access the cashier point. So definitely there's a lot to learn. I think Dr. Olaka shared that 31 banks have developed roadmaps, and we've gone through all those roadmaps, and you'll be happy to know that banks are planning to start phasing in Braille, start phasing in talking ATMs, in addition to the training. So I think a lot of the aspects that you've raised are being carried out and are being planned by the industry. The only thing that you've talked about that banks are not planning to do is the issue of the thumbprint signature. And I think we need to pick that up because we have not discussed that, but of course, KBA works closely with the central bank on the clearinghouse. We jointly work on that. And that includes the check instrument. So we'll have to take that up as a KBA action. So thank you, sir, so much for sharing and also giving us a view of supermarkets, restaurants, and telecommunications. Thank you, sir. Allow us to switch to Ms. Catherine Naserian. Catherine, we are hearing about perceptions, and Mr. Buhala has told us about, okay, so when we have a brother or sister in a restaurant who can't see and they have the cane, but we have maybe restaurant staff that are not aware on the etiquette. What can we do, and what can employers just generally do to really promote accessibility and inclusion? Welcome, Ms. Catherine.
Thank you very much, Nuru. From the employer's perspective, my name is Catherine Nasirian from FKE, and most of the things that have been highlighted, I think it's been a conversation for a long time, and I'm happy that we moved from the conversation of disability, not inability, and now we are talking about leaving no one behind. So in terms of what provisions or how employers can advance and also advance the recruitment and retainment of persons with disability. One is about reasonable accommodation, and this has been highlighted by the two previous speakers, where we need to, as employers, to think about the different types of disabilities. We could think about physical. Recently, there have been many cases of mental health. For instance, what happens if an employer or a person is suffering from mental health? What kind of accommodations as an employer can you make? And this kind of accommodation should happen at the interviewing level and also after recruitment. So being able to provide things like sign language interpreter during interviews for a person with hearing impairment, things like being able to provide an accessible environment during interviews. That's maybe for a person with physical disability. It's also important for employers through their HR guidelines and even policies to remove any non-discriminatory clauses for persons with disabilities at the workplace, because what this means is you kind of remove the stigma. Constantly, we've been guided about like use of language, and it's good that we're having this conversation because the use of maybe a term like PWD versus persons with disability, because when you use the right term, you refer to them as persons or people first, and avoid the possibly negative labeling. And at the workplace, this of course would give persons with disability a lot of very high esteem, and they will also be able to interact with other employees. So it's important that employers are able to look at aspects of their policies and even just the whole work culture and how that environment supports persons with disability. Also, there can also be aspects of job coaching. We need to recognize that persons with disability also have different needs. So during placement or even work trials or just training placements, it's important to think about job coaching and what kind of support you need to give to promote growth for persons with disability, because it's not only about employment or recruitment, but is a person growing in the career line that they would like to grow as other people would, who are possibly not limited by a specific type of disability. There are also very many other kind of support you can offer. Like for instance, in Kenya, there is the tax relief. So our employers supporting persons with disability access necessary documentation or even the certificate that the government gives for 5 years in order to be able to get the tax relief. Then in terms of policy and even at the strategic level, it's important to also consider to engage persons with disability in a meaningful way or at high and strategic level for them to be able to participate in decision making at the organization level, so that we, as policies are being designed or even as companies and organizations are making decisions, then their interests will also be considered. My colleague also has talked about etiquette, the language that we use, and also it's important to sensitize other staff members on what is the basic etiquette to use. Sometimes you'll find in a work environment, many people would just worry on how to interact with persons with disabilities. Sometimes it's for the fear of offending them, it's just ignorance on how to communicate or other reasons. So it's important that we have sensitization on our work culture or the language to use, so that you don't find persons with disabilities being alienated in a work environment just because I don't know what to say, so then I just maybe keep quiet or not talk to persons to them. In an environment where you'll find all these efforts are have been put and possibly are not working, we would also encourage employers to put affirmative action. Sometimes when you're doing recruitment, you find that it's a bit difficult to just meet the minimum threshold. So what other affirmative actions can we put in place, like policies on reward or payment, or even just what the government has done in terms of increasing the retirement age for persons with disability? And finally, I'll talk about technology, where it's actually good that today we are launching such a good assistive technology. So as employers, and depending also on the kind of working environment that you have, it's good to consider other types of assistive technology. You've mentioned about the screen readers, the digital screen readers, and even other high-tech products. So this app will be such a good assistance for persons with hearing impairment. And just to conclude, as the Federation of Kenya Employers, we also hosting what is called the Kenya Business and Disability Network, which is a network of business, both in the private sector and even NGOs, where we come together to share good practices on disability and inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Catherine Naserian, for your very good comments and really just a reminder that we need to really look at our policies, both at the institutional level, at the industry level, and then you've reminded us about the national policy. You raised a very important point about mental health. We need to remember that disability is both temporary and also permanent. And I think we are seeing a lot of increasing cases around mental health. So thank you for that. And also reminding us there is a tax benefit and income opportunity through that for persons with disabilities as employees. And thank you for noting about the Business and Disability Network. Allow us to shift, because you talked about assistive technology, allow us to shift to Mr. Henry Kilonzo with Safaricom and the Safaricom Foundation and representing the organization overall. We have seen some wonderful technologies, and I know Ms. Irene Barikirika will also touch on this. Maybe you can share with us what your organization is doing in terms of really increasing accessibility and independent transactions through telecommunications. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Nuru, and good morning, participants and panelists. My name is Henry Kilonzo. I represent Safaricom. The Sustainable Development Goals play a key role in what we do at Safaricom. And we have identified 9 of the Sustainable Development Goals. And I will single the Sustainable Goal number 10, which is on reduced inequalities. And at Safaricom, we have a vision to be a purpose-led technology company by the year 2025. And we have developed inclusive strategies, products and services that drive the participation of persons with different disabilities, be it customers, be it partners, or even our employees. When you go to most of our shops countrywide, we have sign language interpreters for customer service, and we offer sign language training to even our staff. All our shops sell handsets which with accessibility features or accessories. To increase accessibility of M-Pesa, we have integrated the interactive voice response, what we call the IVR. The service helps the visually impaired access information about M-Pesa accounts by dialing number 456. This has helped to increase trust in the service and its organic promotion by customers with disabilities. More importantly, with interactive voice command technology, the blind or the visually impaired can now check their M-Pesa information without external assistance, which keeps their personal information safe. Back in the year 2018, we launched a Braille Watch in partnership with DOT, that is DOT Incorporation. And this allowed blind people to access M-Pesa services independently without seeking external support. The DOT Braille Watch displays SMS notifications in Braille, hence enabling a visually impaired person to read their M-Pesa messages independently and conduct financial transactions with confidentiality. Our chat box, Zuri, enables access to our customers serviced by the deaf, among others, at the palm of their hands. And through our Safaricom and M-Pesa foundations, we support community projects that help persons with disabilities, including children, through donation of equipment, renovation of facilities, among others. And I'm happy that one of the panelists here is Irene Barikirika, and we worked with her for many years at the Thika School for the Blind. Without a doubt, technology is a vital pathway to support people with different disabilities to enable them go beyond what they need to do. And through technology, we are also able to create inclusive workspaces. For instance, at Safaricom, we have simple interventions such as large screens and job access with speech for visually impaired staff. We use closed captions and sign language interpretation in all our events to ensure that our communication is very inclusive. And this is evident now with the onset of COVID in the year 2020. Most of the businesses was run through technology, Zoom, Teams, and others. And in all webinars that we had, our employees who have different challenges benefited from this. If they cannot hear, they could be the closed captions came in here to support. Our buildings are installed with the strobe lights for signaling attention to people who are deaf to alert them on danger and emergency evacuations. We also have a flexible medical cover for our staff who need to get various assistive devices depending on the type of disability. This includes, but not limited to, hearing aids, wheelchairs, prosthetics, crutches, eye care, physiotherapy, and virtual physical fitness sessions. Disability inclusion is part of our business ethos, and as such has continued to accelerate this agenda to ensure no one is left behind. In fact, we have a unit within our human resource team that champions, the rights and the enablement of the environment for our employees with different disabilities. We have signed the Disability Charter for Change and made 3 commitments during the first ever Global Disability Summit in the year 2018. These commitments are: 1, economic empowerment, elimination of stigma and discrimination, and facilitating the availability of affordability of assistive devices and technologies for persons with disabilities. In addition, Safaricom is also guided by the 10 principles of the International Labour Organization Global Business Disability Network and the Kenya Business Disability Network, whose mandate is to drive inclusion of persons with disability. I can talk and talk and talk and talk on what we've done as Safaricom, but in conclusion, you allow me to conclude. And as I do this, I call on all stakeholders in the technology, financial services, mobile and telecoms industries to continue to prioritize disability inclusion so that persons with disability can benefit from the same developing technology and live in the same real digital world as everyone else. I thank you all.
Thank you so much, Henry. What a wonderful view you've given us of what Safaricom is doing and how you're purposing to be a purpose-led institution by 2025. And you've talked about the devices, you've talked about sign language interpreters in your branches, and then you've gone further to really tell us about your workspaces and your buildings in terms of how you're ensuring even little things like emergency evacuation. You've factored in the aspect of the fact that you could have staff, even visitors or suppliers in your building at any time who would need to know how to move around. You really spoke to the aspect of technology. And at this point, I'd like to turn over to Ms. Irene Barry-Kirika, because she's been doing some tremendous work. You mentioned you've worked together on Thika School for the Blind. And Irene, you've been doing a lot of work supporting the government at the policy level. Of course, you've supported KBA through Enable with a project that we had last year that has informed the Deaf eLimu banking app that we're launching today. Can you expound on the disability accessibility standards you've been working on? Over to you, Irene. Thank you. You'll unmute your line.
Yes.
And thank you for also the late night. I know you're in Washington, D.C., so welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So first off, Nuru, allow me to say thank you so much for everything you've done. Most people might not realize this began as a very, very simple conversation. And this is what I say, the power of a simple conversation that is totally well received. And someone goes an extra mile and sees the vision and moves this to the next level. So I want to say this, thank you to Nuru, because if it was not for you, we would not be here today. Most of us in the disability community, we have many conversations, but they end as soon as we start, as soon as the conversation is over. So thank you. And I'm looking forward to amazing innovations in the financial services sector and a lot of creativity. So thank you. Second, I would love to acknowledge all the amazing activities that are ongoing in the financial services sector, whether it's digital or just being able to accommodate persons with disabilities. Everything that you can do, everything that you do to support a person with disability, you're actually also supporting yourself. Because as we say, you don't know when you can get into a disability. 70% of disabilities are hidden. So half the time we don't even know who has a disability. So, and as we age, we also acquire some form of disability. So when we talk about accessibility or tech inclusion, we are thinking about each one of us. So Enable has been through this journey for almost 14, 15 years. So it's been an amazing journey. I have to say, I think most organizations have been very scared of disability and tech. So to sit here today and see people are willing to have that conversation, it's very, very exciting. I have to say it's a journey. It's not easy, but there's room to learn and collaborate and move forward. So Enable partnered with the Kenya Bureau of Standards. And the reason for this is because we realized that most people first in Kenya, and not just Kenya, across Africa, do not understand what is digital accessibility. When you're telling me my mobile money application needs to be accessible, what does that really mean? So we partnered with Kenya Bureau of Standards, including Communications Authority and ICT Authority. And the whole purpose was to develop a digital accessibility standard for Kenya. So I have to say it's been maybe 6 months of work, and maybe 3 weeks ago, we actually finalized on the first draft that is actually out for public review. So everybody should be able to have access to the document, and we're happy to share on our website. But at the same time, we're looking forward to receiving feedback, and the purpose is so that by January, we can have a complete document that meets to Kenya Bureau of Standards for approval. This standard will cover both public and private sector. It will address all issues disability. If you're providing a product or a service that's digital, then you will begin to understand when we say digital accessibility, what does it mean and how does it apply to my products and services? Number two, how can I meet the global accessibility standards? Meaning that this is not just unique to Kenya. We are not meeting Kenyan standards, we are meeting global standards. And the advantage to this is that Kenya will be the first country in Africa to have a digital accessibility standard, which creates room for discussions, for knowledge sharing. But most importantly, that means we can have our products move forward in a much faster way and be more inclusive to people with disabilities. The standard will be very clear on the technical requirements, and that's where the developers and designers of digital products and services come in, because we realize that's a gap that's there. And for us, that's really exciting. We hope by April, the standard will be ready, and at least there'll be a community available, ready to support both private and public sector. And when I say private and public sector, it means healthcare, it means transportation. It means if I need to file my taxes online and I'm blind, I should be able to do it. So there'll at least be a guideline. And the focus, of course, will be mainly on web and mobile applications. So we are really, really excited, and we thank KBA for the opportunity to work with you. And we hope that we can continue to open many doors and help other businesses understand the importance of digital accessibility to their customers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Irene, and really just congratulations to you for your tenacity and really sticking with this agenda. I know we have known each other for a very long time, and the fact that Enable has been around for the past 15 years is really quite remarkable. So congratulations on that. And really thank you for walking us through why it's so important to have these standards, just to really harmonize what best practice is and really bed it down. So I guess you'll be sharing with us the document, and we can circulate it to the attendees of this forum. Since it's open for public review, we can all have a look at this. So maybe I can cross, we've crossed the Atlantic. We're in Washington, DC, and we're going to cross even further to Palo Alto, California, where Mr. Bruce Cahan, who's the founder of the Sustainable Banking Initiative at Stanford, and Mr. Bruce lectures on ethics and finance at Stanford. Bruce, can you just, maybe you can unmute your line and just share with us, give us that global perspective on inclusion, really just through banking and elaborating on what responsible banking looks like from an international perspective. Over to you, Bruce.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, my friend Nuru. It's amazing actually to stay up late with you all. Irene, I applaud your awakeness, and to hear how Kenya is becoming a sandbox for innovation. where disability or people with disability are viewed as not just customers, but the innovators themselves. And I want to personalize some of my remarks, if you'll let me. I have a neuromuscular condition called dystonia. It makes my head shake. I normally describe myself as a recovering Wall Street lawyer and Hong Kong merchant banker and geospatial technology finance pioneer. And what I understand is that people need to know and name what your disability is. And if you get that right out in the first sentence, then it's not a mystery that they see what they see, and then they can listen to your words. But I want to, in contrast to many of the other speakers who've been amazing today, I want to give you a different view, perhaps, of what's been called disability in this panel. We just watched a superhero, Hudson, tell us how to think about death. I need you to understand his superhero status, right? Solomon is a superhero. And when I say superhero, I'm not talking about comic books. I'm actually talking about the skill that people with disabilities develop as an extra trait, as an extra capacity. In my own case, because of the way my left side works and my neck work, I've had to forecast where physically I would be so that my left side doesn't knock Nuru to the ground when I pass her in the hallway. Well, if your brain rewires like that from an early age, you become have an ability to forecast what will happen in the future. And I became a lawyer. So forecasting what could go wrong or what could go right with a deal for a client was kind of an important thing. I became a banker. We have bankers on the line. What could go right or what could go wrong with a transaction? Why was I so lucky that it would land on my desk? Okay. How would I protect the bank? I became a geospatial technology finance pioneer at the command center after 9/11. What would be the extra layers of data about New York City that would have a role in bringing the city back? This future state lets me now look at how we're going to finance the space industry and other things. So when I look at my own disability or partial disability, I'm very aware that it's a gift. It's not just an albatross. We need accommodations. We need the banks, and as Nuru shares, I teach ethics and finance to engineers at Stanford. What I would like to see is a discussion about the anticipatory financial health and wellness for people with disabilities. And as Irene said very, very aptly, we will all have disabilities as we age, whether through accidents or genes or whatever. So how do we become anticipatory of the banking needs for people, whether they have or don't have yet the disabilities to need them? And as an example, you all probably know Thomas Edison, and the inventor of many things. He actually died with 1,000 patents to his name. He went deaf at age 12 from scarlet fever. And he came to see his deafness, and I don't mean to presume here, but he said this, as a way to hear silence so he could work on his inventions. Okay? That's powerful. That's really powerful. And I wonder who are Kenya's telemedicines. Well, I've met a few today. Obviously, Hudson is on that list. How do we cultivate these people? How do we let them tell us their superpowers? How does a bank hire them to be one of the employees that brings the superpower into the bank? Instead of just being accommodated, bring the superpower too. So, one of the things that I thought I would share also is an example from the accounting profession, which bankers actually use accountants. I think every year they have to. Certainly the central bank would want you to. And autism is a mental condition. You've heard of autism, and we have an increasing rate of autism in the States among children, or it's increasingly being diagnosed. And it's a spectrum of mental capacities. Well, autistic kids, some of them, have a high rate of perception of detail. And what the accounting firm Ernst & Young managed to do was to deal with their behavioral challenges, but to ask these highly detail-oriented people to look at finding the problems in the accounting of the clients for this major international firm. Think about that. I mean, you know, it's amazing to me that Hudson, as a coder, could build an app like he did, right? Imagine Hudson with folks who are autistic, making sure that his app works and finding the errors before it gets to be a glitch, right? So these are superpowers coming together. Holy moly, this is great, right? And this isn't just wishful thinking. You are in a war for talent. Every bank in the world is trying to keep people at the bank working instead of going to the tech companies around within 2 miles of where I'm talking to you from in Silicon Valley. And so if you're going to want to win a war for talent, the 25% of your population at least that have a disability might be a good group to cater to. You know, Miss Catherine talked about HR. Think about an HR that says, we actually need your superpowers here at the bank. Okay? That's a different attitude. It's in addition to accommodations, but it goes beyond it. Finally, I think it's important to, at least in the States, I'm finding this as I'm doing a lot of research in terms of entrepreneurship, to recognize that some of the greatest inventions came from people who were disabled because they had to. And I'm not just talking about physical or mental. I'm also talking about societal. I'm talking about, you know, people from different races or different genders or the whole gamut of difference that people come with, and if you buy into the superpower argument, are gifted to see the world from. Sometimes it's not a happy world. Sometimes it hasn't treated them well. I get that. I'm not trying to gloss over that. But I do think that we have an opportunity to make sure that everybody is given the chance to be the best self that they can be. Because at the end of the day, whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God, I don't think we would end up with a complex world, the world of complexity that we live in, if we didn't have the diversity of people thinking and innovating to get us through it. So we need everybody and their best selves to help us with this complexity. And with that, I'll turn it back to Nuru.
Thank you so much, Bruce, for that wonderful remark. Let me pause here. I don't see Byron, who's our interpreter. Okay, thank you. Byron, I was wondering where you went. Okay, thank you so much, Bruce, for your wonderful remarks and helping us take a step back and think about that we should not, even within ourselves, carry stigma with the word disability. So you've reminded us that people are differently abled, and people like Hudson are indeed superheroes because of that extra capacity that you've guided us, and you also shared your experience. I'll bring it back to what the governor, the governor, Dr. Njoroge, mentioned earlier about that team of 30 who all learned sign language because of the two, and that's another superpower, right? Influencing and galvanizing people to be a little bit more humane. So thank you for that, and reminding us about the need to really be anticipatory from a financial sector perspective. And I didn't know that Edison had a disability. I wasn't aware of that. And I quickly Googled that quote that you said, and indeed he said that because he has difficulty hearing, he can actually pay attention to and hear signals that normal people cannot hear. So indeed, that is a superpower, right? So that is a superpower. And then of course, you've reminded us about the war of talent and this issue about being analytical and paying attention to the granular details, and how our brothers and sisters with autism have that superpower. And then finally, in terms of inventions and the inventiveness because of necessity. So thank you so much, Bruce. We've had such a wonderful conversation. We started with Tamara Cook really just helping us think about financial inclusion. We crossed over to Mr. Buhala, who really walked us through what we're experiencing, not only in the banking industry, but supermarkets and restaurants and telecommunications. So how we can make sure our product design touches on if we're using a smartphone, somebody who cannot see or has low vision, how are they able to click and not have to double click? So little things around ensuring that our clients with disabilities are part of the product design and infrastructure. We heard from Safaricom about the amazing way that they're charting a way forward to being a purpose-built organization, to the granular detail, including evacuation of anybody in their premises. Of course, Ms. Catherine talked about the policies and how we need to really look at our policies and probably even introduce affirmative action, because there might be an uneven playing ground when it comes to recruitment. Irene Kirika, who is really the legend and really has been championing this issue for the past 15 years. Thank you for keeping that conversation going, because if you don't have somebody beating that drum, who will dance? So thank you for that, Irene. And finally, Bruce, thank you so much for reminding us about the superheroes that are amongst us, including Hudson. Allow me to pass it on back to Mr. Nyakundi. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nuru, for that insightful panel. Let's celebrate the panel, please. Thank you very much for those insights and ideas, which I'm sure will contribute really to enhancing more inclusivity across sectors. Now we are going to the end of our program, and I know we have run over time, but I would like really to go through an appreciation. I want to thank everybody who has joined us today. We have had an average of over 150 of us on the call constant, which is really good. And thank you for following the conversation. I would like to first begin by appreciating our chief guest, Dr. Patrick Njoroge, for making time to join us today and for the ideas that he has shared with us, which will really go a long way in creating cross-sector collaboration towards enhancing the inclusion of people with disabilities. Then I'd like to appreciate our KBM banks who are on the call today. Thank you very much for joining us and for supporting this initiative. I'd like also to recognize and thank Ms. Carol Karaoke, who was here earlier making remarks on sharing perspectives on how people with disabilities can be supported from that perspective. I'd also like to recognize Hudson Asiema, who is our superhero today, for the innovation, for supporting this innovation, and also the good work he's been doing. I'm sure that we will continue to work together to enhance the app and add more vocabularies as the governor challenged us. I'd also like to thank Ms. Tamara Cook, the CEO of FSD Kenya, for the support. She has accorded this project right from the beginning when we were working on the project, on the survey of the banks that participated in the initial pilot project, right to the stage where we are having one of the recommendations of that project coming to fruition. So thank you very much, Tamara and the team. I would also like to recognize the Kenya Society for the Blind, today represented here by Solomon Buhala, and thank you for the partnership, the ongoing partnership. I know we've run so many partnerships together, including the awareness campaigns, and thank you for the support and always being there to support these initiatives. I would also like to recognize Irene Barikirika, who has really been also very close to this project right from the beginning, and also continues to share very encouraging insights all along. So thank you very much, Irene, for that support. At this point, I'd like to also thank Professor Bruce Kahan. I know you have braved, it's a different time zone where you are. And thank you very much for staying on to join us in this discussion and for the really insightful comments you've made in this discussion, which will also go a long way in, informing activities towards enhancing inclusivity. I'd also like to thank Mr. Henry Kilonzo from Safaricom for joining us. Safaricom has been a great partner of KBA in many initiatives, and we look forward to continuing partnering. Thank you also to Mrs. Catherine Nasirian for joining us and for sharing us perspectives from an employer's perspective on what can be done to enhance inclusion. I know we have other guests on the call. I'd like to mention Honorable Ocharo was on the call with us today. Thank you very much, Honorable Ocharo, for joining us. And also we'd like to recognize our media partners today who have kept the conversation going on social media. At this point, I would also like to thank Nuru. Nuru is actually the champion of this project. She's really worked so hard to put everything together, and want to appreciate her and for the great work. And also, as I come to a close, I want to thank myself for facilitating the program today, despite the technical hitches that we had at the beginning. So I thank myself for remaining calm and making sure that the program has moved on smoothly. Now, tomorrow is International.
Sorry, Mr. Nyakundi, I'm sorry to be unprocedural. I want us to really thank you, and also Dorothy, because you all have worked very closely with Mr. Hudson on this platform. So yeah, it's right that you're thanking yourself because you really worked hard on this. And also want to thank Francis Guer from FSD Kenya. And then also the team from Central Bank, Mr. Wallace Kantai, together with the governor, Dr. Njoroge. Everybody has been just so supportive. So really, we want to thank especially the Central Bank because Dr. Njoroge has a very tight schedule. So when you see him with us, and you can see how closely he is to this subject, he went to the mountain to raise money for the Thika school. And the team at Central Bank are so committed on this aspect of inclusion. So there are just so many people to thank. This is actually my last KBA event. So it is quite emotional, but it's very appropriate to end it on this note and this wonderful challenge that Ms. Carol Kariuki has put out to the whole private sector. So really it's just to thank everybody. Thanks, back to you, Nyakundi.
Thank you so much, Nuru. I think you made a good comment there that there are so many people actually to thank for the contributions towards this initiative. So in closing, I wanted to highlight that tomorrow is Persons with Disability, International People with Disabilities Day. And I'd like to encourage you all to keep the discussion going using the hashtags IDPD and also OA 11Y Finance, so we can keep the discussion going. And also like to remind you that to download the application, as we saw from Hudson's presentation earlier, it's available on Android and it's coming very, very soon on the App Store. So thank you very much for joining us, and wish you all the best in the rest of your day and night for those who are in a different time zone. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.